Hello out there. We're on the air. We're finally on the air. Well, right. Why? I did a little wardrobe change today. I flipped. I'm inverse today. Gray hat, navy hoodie, as opposed to gray hoodie, navy hat. I don't know why. Just felt like it today. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode, another edition of the Daily Bitcoin Journey. This show is actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and for future Bitcoiners. I came up with another catchphrase over the weekend. I might try it out. Letha's over in Zap.stream chat. Good morning, Letha. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this catchphrase for the Daily Bitcoin Journey? What was it? Oh, no flash, no flare, no bull, no bear, just logic. Daily Bitcoin Journey. What do we think about that? Okay, let's share this to the world so more people can show up here and more people can hear great catchphrases like that. Stream. Okay, well, happy Monday, everybody. I apologize for being a little bit late today. Mondays are tough for me. Mondays and Fridays are both tough, which isn't great because that's almost half the week. But at the same time, we're here. And we are a little bit late, but we are here. And that's the main thing, I think. Ninju, good morning. I saw some funny comments in the chat this morning, so I got to bring those up. Worth mentioning. Jason, good morning. Timber Crasher, one of our newest members of Living the Future. Good morning. Good to see you here. And the reason his name is Timber Crasher is not what you would think, not what I thought anyways. It's actually based on fishing for bass. Red finger red number 1. I don't know what that means. That must be an emoji that I can't see. 814 Ninju said, when does it start? And then Crypto Heathen said, good things take time, like getting the stream started. Oh, that's good stuff. Okay, well, let's get right into things here. There's a new face in the chat. Phaedrus and Cat23, good greetings from the Netherlands. Greetings from Canada, where it is beautiful here this morning. We had a couple, I don't need to make any excuses here for being late, but we had a couple things go awry this morning. But anyways, we got a good show today. So let's start with the metrics for today. Let's start with that. We got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to have to move a little bit fast. Holy. Fee spike. We got a fee spike in the market. What's that all about? So this is the mempool. This is the greatest resource in Bitcoin. You can go to mempool.space and you can follow all the blocks. Within each block, you can see all the transactions. And we're going to keep this in mind here because we're going to be talking about this stuff today. Today's episode is going to be focused on a couple things. It's called Good Things Take Time. We're going to talk about the importance of thinking in longer term instead of year to year. And we're also going to talk about the proof of work protocol within Bitcoin and what makes Bitcoin what it is. I'm going to talk about kind of like a big picture analogy. I'm going to run through a golf analogy about it. And it's all going to tie together. We got a couple things to start with, and it's going to loop back there. So we're currently at block height 846,355. That means that 846,000 blocks have been mined since January the 3rd, 2009. And we just saw one there. So never mind. We're currently at block height 846,354. The fees today, when I wrote down my little metrics today, they were low, but it looks like the last couple blocks, something's going on right now. What is going on right now? I don't know. Anyways, this is what happens in the world of Bitcoin. It can go from 18 sats per vbyte to 60 sats per vbyte pretty quick, which is good. I mean, you can see here that we look at a block like this, the miners made 3.3 Bitcoin for their troubles. And then this block, they made 3.7 Bitcoin. So the higher the fees, the more the miners get paid, and the happier that everybody is, except those who have to transact on the Bitcoin layer 1 this morning. So that is the state of the network, part of it anyways. The price today, we're up again, 69,675 USD. 1 year ago, you could have purchased a Bitcoin for $27,078. And 4 years ago today, we're thinking in 4-year terms here, you could have purchased one Bitcoin for $9,676 US. Moscow time today, I don't think that is accurate. Let's take a quick look to see an official number there. I don't think that was the only one I didn't update today. What do we got? 1437. That's what we like to see. Well, some people like to see. I'm pretty indifferent because we have to keep in mind that the fiat measurement of Bitcoin is a complete illusion. But here in Canada, the price today is $94,745. Let me say that again. To purchase one Bitcoin right now in Canada, you have to pay 94,745 Canadian dollars. How many people do you know that have 94,745 Canadian dollars in their bank account? Probably not many. So if you are lucky enough, if you're somebody out there who has one Bitcoin, not only are you set up for today, but you're going to be very, very, very well positioned for the future. Moose Jaw time today, one loonie will get you 1,054 Satoshis. The deal of a lifetime. Good morning, Johnny. Good morning, Rick. Have you smashed the like button? I don't know if we deserve a smash for the like button or not today, because we're late. So if it was me, I wouldn't be hitting the like button today, but that's just me. Looks like a lot of you have already, so I appreciate that. Over in Zap.stream, we got Crypto Heathen, we got Craig, we got Paul, Ballsy Golf, we got the Bitcoin Nostr newbie, and we got Plunger, 94,000 in Canadian pesos. We're not too far off. We're not too far off from the pesos. Crypto Heathen says, so many people are going to miss the boat because they see these prices and think they've already missed it. Yep, that is absolutely correct. Question here from Bitcoin Nostr newbie. Not sure if you would do this, but could you rate my content from 1 to 10? I would appreciate the honest feedback. I'd be happy to. I just don't know where your content is. On Nostr, on Zap.stream, on YouTube. Put it in the chat there, leave a link, and we'll give you a rating for it. Maybe live on air. Shout out to Daniel for 420 zapped, Monday Zap Day. I created a new goal over on Zap.stream today. It's called Mondays Are for Arnie. So over the weekend, I started a new NPub, a new Nostr account for Arnie. I figured I was posting enough pictures of him as it is through my account, so I figured I'd just make him one. And so the funny thing about this, actually, and I posted about this on the weekend, but the thing with Nostr is posts get lost. There's no like recent or best or anything like that, unfortunately, which hopefully will change soon. There was actually, sorry, I'm taking a few side roads here, but that's okay. There was actually a post. I was thinking about this on the weekend with Nostr. I wish that there was a way where you could choose like 10, 15, 20, or however many you want, like close friends on Nostr, and you guarantee that you see all their posts. It'd be like a filter. Like they're at the top on Damus, there's posts, post and replies, and then there should be one that says close friends or something like that. Because I just feel like I miss a lot of posts that I want to see on Nostr because it's all just like a chronological. It's not like there's no algorithms there. So I wish that there was a way to do that, but anyways, I made an npub, an account for Arnie. And so I hooked it up to an old wallet of Satoshi wallet that I had. And I kid you not, I don't have the phone in here, but this was an existing wallet of Satoshi that I had for a couple of years now. And I hooked it up to Arnie's account in Nostr. And wallet of Satoshi, if you have a wallet, they give you like a random Lightning ULR. They're funny usually. But this one was called Adopted Son 98. That's the wallet I hooked up to Arnie's. I didn't even know that was the Lightning URL, but it worked out pretty perfect. So that's Arnie's new. He has his own wallet. I think I'm just going to start contributing a couple sats there every once in a while. I got his Nostr account up on there. Every Monday, I'm going to do the zaps from zap.stream. I'm going to put it into Arnie's wallet. And I think that that's just a good way for, who knows, maybe it'll pay for a vet bill one day. It could pay for a new doghouse outside. Maybe we'll build him a nice little doghouse. Whatever that is, though. But it's going to tie into today because over like a year or a month, it'll probably be like 10,000 sats or something like that. But over 4 years, I think that that's actually going to be pretty interesting to look at. So all the zaps from zap.stream today are going towards Arnie's wallet, Adopted Son 98. And make sure to follow Arnie on Nostr if you're not yet. Craig says, I zapped and it's not showing up. Okay, let me take a look here. Make sure we got it. Yep. Craig zapped 2,100 sats. Holy. Arnie's making more than me so far. 2,100 and 420 from Daniel. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate that. Letha says, I followed Arnie on Nostr. He's adorable. Thank you. Yeah, he is. He's quite the guy. He's had some issues on the weekend. I think he got into some mushrooms in the backyard over the weekend, and he's been excessively drooling. So I sent out a few posts for, I really like Nostr for a lot of reasons, but one of the main ones is like you can ask a question on there and you just get real people answering to you who have been through that. Because if you've ever Googled anything, especially medical wise, it's a nightmare. Like I had like, I forget what happened, but I had like an upper abdomen pain last week and I Googled it and I had like 10 different cancers according to Google. So with Nostr, you use the hashtag Ask Nostr, or you can get some replies from your friends, but it's usually a lot more accurate and it's people who have actually been through it, real people answering with real answers. And so I got some good feedback on Arnie this weekend and what he's going through. So if it persists, we're going to take him to the vet today or tomorrow, but hopefully it feels like he's getting better. Brennan, good morning. Caleb, good morning, fellas. And El Nino, good morning from the west coast of BC. Always nice to see some fellow Canadians in here, but also fellow Manitobans like Sachi. And Argentina, look at this. F.A. Pezzetta. Good morning. Cheers from hyperinflationary Argentina. Johnny's following Arnie. Carl, SKA Live, good morning. Okay, let's get into this because we got a couple things to talk about here right off the hop. We got 2 daily block rewards today to discuss. The first one just came out right before the show. I saw it and I thought it was worth mentioning just because it's funny. Good way to start a Monday morning. So where was this here? So there was a comment on a video. The video was called Zero Good Things About Ethereum. And there's 53 comments on there, as you would expect. The Ethereum bros don't like it too much when you bash their tokenized version of the fiat dollar, except worse. But one of the comments here was from Hawk TGK 7 days ago. He said, this guy must be getting paid to bash Ethereum. When you just keep posting about how bad it is, if something is that bad, I just don't speak about it. LOL, these YouTubers, you have to watch how they move. So Hawk left a comment accusing me of being paid to bash Ethereum, which is fine. Whatever, just nonsense. But then 24 minutes ago, Wealth Squad he commented, who would be paying him to bash Ethereum? The Bitcoin CEO? Like, that's what I mean. Who would ever pay me? First of all, who would pay me to bash Ethereum on this channel? Who's paying me? Who would ever take their funds and pay me for it to bash Ethereum? The Bitcoin CEO. So that was a good comment I wanted to share quickly here. But this next one, this was an interesting one. Let me find this one quickly, because this is going to be a walkthrough. We did this how long ago here? Maybe a month ago. We talked about this on the channel, but I think that it's worth going over again, because there's a question. I don't know if I can find it. I'll try to quickly here, but if I can't find it, we'll just do a big picture analysis here. Okay, it was on the retire video. Retire. There it is. Okay, so somebody asked here on this retire video, retire with Bitcoin. Where's the comment here? Anyways, they basically asked if I could do a spreadsheet with Bitcoin price predictions and explaining how long it would take and how much you need to retire on Bitcoin. But what I want to do instead is actually, instead of doing price predictions, this is actually based on what's happened. And so I'm going to bring this up here. But this is the spreadsheet that I talked about, and I actually made an adjustment to it this morning. This is why I was a little bit late for the show. But I made an adjustment to this morning because the whole idea with this channel here, and one of the main things I talk about, is no matter how much Bitcoin you have, if you have half a Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, 10 Bitcoin, whatever amount you have, your end goal here should be to keep 90 to 95% of that Bitcoin and never spend it. Think of it like a farmer thinks of their land, the exact same way. They pass it on to their kids, they pass it on to their kids, and they never sell it. They take out loans against it with the illusionary fiat dollars, and they buy things with that using their land as collateral, but they never sell their land. And I want everybody to be thinking about that with Bitcoin, the exact same concept with your Bitcoin. You keep 90 to 95% of it. So the guy asked me to do a Bitcoin price prediction in terms of how much you'll need to retire. But I think this is a more accurate way to explain it. So in 2020, let's say you had 100 Bitcoin. And I know this seems high. These are just numbers. Don't worry about the actual Bitcoin. Don't worry about the dollar value, because as we go on here, every cycle, this amount here, this 100 Bitcoin is actually the requirement to start. This is going to be much less as we go on. So this is just kind of a way to explain the fact that with your Bitcoin, even though you're spending some of your Bitcoin and your Satoshis and your Bitcoin balance is going to go down over time, your purchasing power is actually going to increase as you go. So this small little spreadsheet here goes through 2020. You bought 100 Bitcoin worth $726,000. In 2021, you decided to spend a little bit. You spend 1 Bitcoin, which average of 2021 was 50,000 bucks. It was higher than that. That was when the all-time high was before. It was 69,000, I think. But the average about for 2021 was 50,000 bucks. So that's what you lived off of, $50,000. Part of it anyways. 2022, you spent 2 Bitcoin because price dropped down a little bit. You still got 50,000 bucks worth. 2023, you spent another 2 Bitcoin and you got $60,000 living expenses. And then at the end of it, in 2024, you still have 95 Bitcoin. And the purchasing power of that Bitcoin went from 626,000 to 5.1 million. And so you run through the same experiment or the same concept here for the next 4 years, and your balance is now 5.1 million USD. And it's going to continue. So you spend a Bitcoin, you spend a couple Bitcoin, you spend a couple 100,000 Satoshis as we move on here. But the point of this is to show that even though your Bitcoin balance is going down, you're spending some of your Bitcoin, you're purchasing Okay, well, I think we lost my camera here for a second, and I don't know where I stopped talking there, but I'll just repeat that again, just in case. I don't know why this keeps happening here with the camera. It's kind of annoying, to be honest with you. But anyways, can you still hear me? Looks like my audio is working. We'll give it a sec. Am I here? I don't know. Okay. Seems like we're here. Hello, hello, hello. Well then. Come on. What a shit show. Are we back? Are we back? There we go. Is the sound on though? That's a question. Seems like we're working. Okay, I apologize for that. I wonder if the zap.stream cut off there. Okay, well, I think we're back. Jesus. Okay, let's keep it rolling here. The point of that, and I'm sorry I cut off there. I have no idea what happened there. Usually it drops for like a second, and then I can easily get back onto it. But that was a little different story. I had to close out all of my stuff here and fire it up again. Anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about. Kind of the whole premise of that is that even though you're spending your sats, your purchasing power actually increases over time. And that's not a prediction. I didn't want to go into the future because it's really impossible to know what Bitcoin price is going to be 5 years from now. But that's actually, if you did that in 2020, that's what it would have looked like. An actual, not hypothetical, an actual. Okay, so let's move on here. We got a little bit of Bitcoin news to touch on, and then we're going to get to the main part of the show. Once again, I apologize for the technical issues today. I don't know. Sometimes it just, things don't go your way. But this was a video I watched, and it was actually from a debate, I believe, which is good. My favorite things on earth are debates. And I feel like that's the one thing in the world that we're missing right now desperately is debates. With all the censorship, with all the things we've witnessed in the last 4 years, I think that things like this are more important than ever. And I think this is something we need more of in the world. So this is Dave Smith. This is actually a comedian. I don't know if you saw this or not, but this was the best 2 minutes of internet I've watched in a long time. And not because, like, if you're somebody who spends a lot of time in Bitcoin, you kind of hear this stuff all the time. But for it to be like mainstream news like this, I think Dave Smith was debating that dipshit from CNN, Como. But listen to this. It's 2 minutes long. And he basically describes the world perfectly in terms of what we're going through right now. So this is Dave Smith. I'm going to put it on full screen. I'm going to mute myself. And let's listen to what he has to say.
We're in a collapsing empire right now, and that's our job is to try to right this ship. But we're in a late stage empire, and that's what America is. And this rarely comes up in corporate media, but the USA is the most powerful empire in the history of the world, and we are the global empire right now. But we're in the very late stages of that with all of the characteristics of a late stage empire. And what are those characteristics? Being way too expanded militarily, being very, very far in debt, and then what ultimately happens after that? The culture devolves into decadence. And that's why things are dumber than they've ever been before. And that's why, you have people, whether it's like a gay pride parade where two guys are like slapping their butt cheeks together and then they're going, we're standing up for our rights. Like, no, you're not. You're not fighting for rights. This is decadence. When you see, if you look back at, say, like William F. Buckley's firing line, when it would be William F. Buckley going at it with Gore Vidal, okay, well, just the level of intelligence there between that and like Sean Hannity going at it with Don Lemon, no offense. There's been a significant fall off. And I think that's what's going on all throughout the country. And what's happening is that the most powerful people are trying to pit us against each other so that we're constantly fighting in a culture war so that we never all get together and realize that, you know what the left wing and the right wing of the culture war have in common? Both of their dollars been destroyed by the Federal Reserve. Okay? But that never gets covered on CNN. You know what I mean? Like that I never see like a big segment about that. Hey, how come all those years having the #1 CNN show, not one segment about the secrecy of the Federal Reserve, the secrecy of the CIA? Instead, all we get from the corporate media is, I don't know, the unvaccinated, the Trump supporter, the Biden supporter, pitting Americans against each other and all the while blaming the American people for these problems. When that's just not true. Most of the American people are good people. They want to take care of their family, go to work, be a member of their community, try to give their kids a little bit more than they had. That's what, and if we had a better media in this country, they would be laser focused on the halls of power and how corrupt they are. Because man, is there a lot of corruption going on at the top here.
Yeah, it's not fair.
What? It's like everything that happens in my mind all day, but he actually said it on mainstream TV. And did you hear how people reacted to that when he said that the one thing that the left and the right have in common is that their dollars being destroyed before their eyes? And everybody clapped for that? It just goes to show where we are right now. It goes to show exactly where we are right now. Every word that he said there was bang on, spot on. And people are starting to recognize it. The one thing that he missed there, obviously, was Bitcoin. The Bitcoin, because he talked about the people at the top, the control structure, the ability to print money. When you give a small group of people the ability to print money, very bad things happen. And with Bitcoin, all of that is destroyed. And that's what's happening one day at a time here. And things like that. Big shout out to Dave Smith for having the balls to say that on mainstream TV. That's what it's going to take. It's not going to be people like me. It's not going to be people like Matt Odell. It's going to be people like this on the mainstream, because this is what people actually watch. There's a very small community around the Bitcoiners, and we all like rallying each other up and rooting each other on. But I don't know how many people have seen this over the weekend, probably in the millions. And that's a big deal. So that's part of it. I want to also give a shout out to, what was the other one here? Kind of along those lines in a way. Trump on the weekend officially started taking Lightning for his donations. And the one thing I thought about that when I was looking at it is that there's a lot of people out there who still hold a lot of silver, a lot of gold. And their main argument for that is that if the power goes out. But you have to ask yourself, why is Trump not talking about gold? Why is Trump not talking about silver? Why is he not accepting those for donations? Because it's not feasible. Just like it's not feasible to think that your silver coin, your gold coin is going to have any sort of real world value in the future. And I don't mean to shit on the what do you call them? The commodity folks. No, not commodity. What's the precious metals? I don't mean to shit on them because I have some myself. But we're not going into a world where people are going to be exchanging gold coins, going to check out and shave off some of their gold coin. It's just not feasible. It's the same reason why Trump isn't accepting gold or silver for donations. But the other part of that I wanted to mention was very similar to the Canadian trucker protest. Last week, Trump was prosecuted guilty of 34 charges. He's a criminal now, apparently. He's a felon. And the left are going crazy over this. Who cares? But the point with Bitcoin, though, is that if you actually wanted to make a donation to Trump now, you could send it over Lightning. And previously, I would have had to, if I wanted to make a donation to Trump, probably impossible since he's in the US. But also, there's a chance that my bank actually could have either stopped that transaction from going to Trump, or they could have froze my bank accounts for supporting a felon. Right? So this is actually a pretty big deal, I think. And that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on the fact that, yeah, it's exciting that he's embracing Bitcoin and accepting Bitcoin as donations. But it's similar to the Canadian trucker protest. When people were sending in donations, they got froze. Their bank accounts got seized or frozen. The Bitcoin was actually the only currency, the only value that was received by the convoy, even though there was like 20 or 30% of it that got seized. But that was just, I think that was some errors on the side of the Bitcoiners who organized that. But that's not the point. The point here is that now, if anybody in the world wanted to send donations to Donald Trump, they could, without any friction there over Lightning, and they wouldn't have to worry about their bank accounts getting frozen because they made a donation to a convicted felon. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Our favorite guy in the chat here, or maybe not. Trump started the vaccine BS. Pluck him. Think what you want. I mean, I have a lot of respect for guys who disagree with a lot of things that I say, but still continue to show up in the chat every morning. So shout out to Aaron. And even with the vaccine, you can kind of think what you want on there. This is not a vaccine show. So we're just going to carry on as we were. There's a bunch of different theories on that I have, but I'm not going to be talking about it live on YouTube today. Also with the Bitcoin news, the last thing I wanted to mention here was that there's a live show on Bitcoin News Twitter today, and it's called Corporate Bitcoin Game Theory Activated. So that starts at 10 a.m. today. You can find it on Bitcoin News Twitter feed. I will be tuning into that today. I think it's very relevant at this point. We've been seeing MicroStrategy for the last couple of years, buying as much Bitcoin as it can. Metaplanet, Japanese public company, been buying Bitcoin. Their stock price shot up. And then we saw Semlar Scientific last week buying Bitcoin, and their price shot up. So I'm going to listen to that today. It's called Corporate Bitcoin Game Theory Activated, Bitcoin News. So stop by there if you're around. I'll be in the. I wish they did them live like this instead of on Twitter live, but whatever. Okay, what else did we have here? Okay, I think that's it. I think there might have been one more thing that I wanted to show though. What was it? No, we talked about Trump already. Oh, this one. I don't know. I kind of wanted to start the show with this today, but I forgot to. But this is a good meme. This is a good meme. I love a good meme. So for those who may be listening to the podcast, by the way, big shout out to the people who have been listening to the podcast on Fountain and on Spotify. The numbers on there are just continuing to go up. So I've never really talked about the podcast. I never really give a shout out to the people who listen to the podcast version. So I wanted to today. Big shout out to everybody on the Fountain and the Anchor, and also Dom. I don't know if Dom's listening today. He was one of the very early big supporters of the show when I first started doing this. It was podcast only, audio only, and Dom was there from the very beginning. And he sent me a 5,000 sat zap on Fountain over the weekend. And I don't know if I can find what he said here quickly, but it's pretty nice. 30 days here earned. Oh, see if I can see it. He said, so this is from Dom, our friend from Australia. We got a couple Aussies in the house here within the community, but he zapped 5,000 sats, or boosted on Fountain. You can boost instead of zap. Same thing. But he said, keep spreading the word, mate. I haven't listened much lately, but enjoyed it. Did you hunt down the walker? So big shout out to Dom for that. 5,000 sats, very generous, very much appreciated. And he's referring to the walker that was here last week. I don't know if people were here or not, but there was somebody just randomly walking by the private road, and we got him on camera last week. I think he was very innocent, just out for a morning walk, but he stood in front of the house for about 10 seconds and just stared. So anyways, here's the meme. It says stock market at an all-time high. That's nice. And then the bottom says, let's see it with real money. Which is true. The best memes are true. But you look at the stock market, you look at the real estate market, you look at everything in the last 10 years. Everything has fallen in comparison to Bitcoin. So that's why it says, even though it's an all-time high, let's see it with real money. And I did see over in Zap.stream that we hit 70K Bitcoin from Letha. So we're back officially. I have to sneeze so bad right now, and I really don't want to do it on the live show. I might accidentally have my Wi-Fi go out in a couple seconds here. Okay, let's regroup here. So today's show is called Good Things Take Time. And I'm glad, even though we had some technical difficulties, that we still have about 20 minutes here to discuss this, because this is an important aspect of Bitcoin and in life. So kind of what I want to do here is, we heard Dave Smith talk about the fact that what they're doing right now, what the control structure is doing right now, and what they have been doing for these last 4 years and beyond, is they're trying to divide people. They want to split us into this category and that category and everything. They want to keep us very divided. So we can't see the real problem here. And the problem at the core of everything is the money. The fact that a very small group of people have the ability to print money out of thin air without any sort of real work required is a problem. And I've been listening, actually, kind of as an aside here that I didn't really think to talk about, but I've been listening to a few different shows lately. Michael Saylor's input. I listened to, what's the guy's name from Zapright? He's a young fella. Parker Lewis. And he kind of backed up Michael Saylor, saying that we don't necessarily need to have sovereign money for the entire world. I think that that's a bit of a stretch to start, because Michael Saylor's kind of been talking about how we don't really need to change Bitcoin and all these different things. But Parker Lewis, I think, and I agree with this, I think that the first thing we need is sound money. That's where we should be starting, because the reality is that not every person on earth is going to take Bitcoin the way we take it in terms of sovereign money, being able to keep your money away from everybody in self-custody. I think that should be the goal of everybody, but I think we need to start with the sound money. And the reason why Bitcoin works is because of its proof of work protocol. It's so much different than the fiat system that we're used to. The fiat system does not require any energy to print money, but more importantly, it does not require any energy to take on more debt. And the worldwide debt right now is $315 trillion. $315 trillion. How did it get that big? Because it doesn't take any work to add that up. You can just add zeros to your balance sheet. You can just add zeros to your debt. Who do we owe $315 trillion to? I have no idea. But there's a problem there, because if you're born as an American citizen right now, you're automatically attached with about $200,000 in debt that the government, before you even existed, before you're even a thought, the government continued to add debt to their balance sheet. So that's a problem. And Bitcoin fixes this using the proof of work protocol. So what I'm going to talk about for these next 10 minutes is I'm going to be talking about proof of work. So let's maybe start with the Bitcoin aspect of it, and then we're going to talk about the life aspect of it as well. So the reason I called the show Good Things Take Time is because I didn't want to call it proof of work. Because if I would have called it proof of work, I think that we probably would have got half the views that we would otherwise, because people see that, they don't understand it, and then they don't care to learn. So what we're going to do quickly here on the show is we're going to talk about the proof of work protocol and why it works, why it changes everything that we know within our financial system. And I'm trying my best to fight off this sneeze here. Okay, so I think this is the best way to look at this in terms of the proof of work. So I'm going to give a bit of a big picture of what proof of work is, how it works, and then I'm going to give a golf analogy about it. So what is proof of work? Without getting too technical, mostly because I don't really understand the inner workings of it, and I don't think that the average person really needs to. And I've watched a lot of videos on it, and people try to go too far into it in terms of all the different phrases and terminologies and the technical part of it. And I just think it gets lost on most people. So if we look at this last block here, 846,355, this was the last block that was mined. And so that's how a new Bitcoin are created. Every time a new block is mined, new Bitcoin are created, and they're given to that miner who solved the block equation. And essentially what that means is, when you solve a block equation, if you think about it, it's basically just a bunch of supercomputers trying to solve an equation. That's all it is. It's a bunch of supercomputers trying to solve an equation. And the first computer to solve that equation gets the block reward, gets to mine the block. So let's start with solving the equation. Very big picture here. The more energy, the more electricity you put into your computer, the more guesses that it can make, and the better chances that you're actually going to solve the block equation. Very simple. You got a slow computer over here. You can't make as many guesses. It takes less energy, but you can't make as many guesses. It's going to take longer, and it has very less odds of solving the block equation. A computer over here, brand new, very efficient. There's a ton of energy going into it. It's making a whole bunch of guesses every second. It has a much higher chance of guessing the equation and solving that block. That's all it is. And the more energy you put into it, the higher your chances are of solving that block. What happens to the block, or what happens to the miners when they actually do solve that block, is they get to compile it. They get to decide which transactions go into there. And if you actually drill into this block, 846,355, you can see all the transactions that are included with this. That's a lot of transactions. 5,800. I feel like that's higher than normal. But anyways, the miner, in this case, it was via BTC. They solve the equation. They get to decide what the block looks like. They get to design the block, and they get to decide which transactions go in that block. So you can see all these 50, 800, and 2 transactions that go into it. So that's kind of what the proof of work is. That's what that's how the block rewards are done. That's how the new Bitcoins are created. And that is the proof of work, because the reason it's called proof of work is because you actually have to take real life energy. However you make that electricity, however you make that energy, it doesn't matter. But the more energy that you put into that, the higher the odds are that you're actually going to solve that block. So that's the proof of work. It ties the physical world to the digital world. And you think about printing money, you think about adding debt, it does not require any sort of energy. And that equation there, if you think about the energy going to it, that could be hydro energy, that could be flared gas, wasted flared gas, any sort of energy, volcanic energy. El Salvador actually mined 450 or 500 Bitcoin in the last 6 months using a volcano. So it's taking physical energy from the real world and it's turning it into digital energy in the digital world, where many people spend their lives now. So that's kind of like the very untechnical way to describe the proof of work protocol, how Bitcoins are mined. But now I want to give a golf analogy. And this is something I've been thinking about for a while. And I've talked about it once on the show, but I think it's worth mentioning again because I shared this on Nostr and somebody actually added a very good analogy to it. So this is how I want you to think about, and Johnny Dunn here I see in the chat, Bitcoin and golf, rocket ship. So Johnny's going to like this analogy here. Essentially what's happening, think about this in golf terms. If you had a bunch of golfers, let's say that you had 1,000 golfers in a circle, and you had a hole in the middle of that circle. And let's say everybody's 200 yards out. They're all hitting different shots, different irons. Some are hitting a 5-iron, some are hitting a 6-iron, but they're all trying to make a hole in one. Everybody's 200 yards in a circle away from the hole, and they're all trying to make a hole in one. And whoever makes a hole in one gets the reward. So that's kind of the first step here. That's the whole thing that's happening here. That's number one. And every time there's a hole in one, it resets. And ideally here, you want a hole in one on average to be every 10 minutes, right? So if it's happening faster than that, you move back 5 yards. If it's taken longer than 10 minutes, you move up 5 yards. And that's kind of the Bitcoin difficulty adjustment. That's how that works. Is every X amount of blocks, if it's taken longer or shorter, it gets adjusted by the code, by the algorithm. So that's what somebody else added. And I think that that's brilliant. And if you take it one step back even further, let's say it's 2011, when it was very easy to mine a block because there was hardly anybody out there who was competing against you. So let's say that back in 2011, this was actually 100 people in a circle hitting 30-foot putts. That's how easy it was. You could get your uncle, you could hire your uncle to go for the day. He's hitting 30-foot putts over and over again, try to make the first putt. And whoever makes the first putt gets the reward. And then you restart. But then over time, you fast forward 10 years, and all of a sudden you have hundreds of thousands of more people who are trying to do this. So it gets a lot harder. There's more competition. It requires more energy. So now it evolved from a small group of people who are mining, basically with computers. Compare your computer here to like your Uncle Jim in terms of like skill level. And then it's evolved to be very efficient miners all around the world, and many of them. So it's moved back now. It's much more difficult to mine Bitcoin because there's so much more competition there. And the proof of work aspect of this is that it's the exact same with Bitcoin as it is in golf. So you could actually pay Tiger Woods $5 million to be the guy shooting your balls. And he's going to have a much higher odds of hiring somebody like me for $500 to go hit balls. He's going to get a lot more hole-in-ones than me. I might only hit the green 1 shot out of 10. Tiger's going to have a lot higher odds of hitting that. So he's worth more, just like a S21 miner versus an S9. More efficient. You put in more energy into it. Tiger Woods has golfed for 10 hours a day for the last 30 years. That's proof of work. And so he's going to be hitting shots. His odds of hitting a hole-in-one are going to be much higher than mine. But I only cost $500, but I still have a chance. There's still a chance that I could get a hole-in-one there. But my odds are significantly lower than Tiger Woods would be. So then you have companies hiring Tiger Woods. You have companies hiring Scotty Scheffler. You have companies hiring Johnny Dunn. He's less expensive, and there's a less chance of him hitting a hole-in-one, but there's still a chance that he could hit a hole-in-one, just like the Bitcoin block rewards. So that is my analogy for Bitcoin mining in terms of golf. That's how you have to look at it. You don't have to worry about all the details and the technical stuff. That's the proof of work protocol. It's the actual energy you put into something, the higher odds it is that you're going to solve that block and be rewarded in Bitcoin. And see, here's a comment. It says, not exactly the same as golf. Golf requires skill and chance, but Bitcoin mining is just chance. No, it's not. It's not just, I mean, it is. But at the same time, the more energy you put into that, the higher your odds are. That's the point I'm getting at here. Because golf does require skill and chance, Bitcoin requires energy and chance. And energy and skill are pretty much the exact same thing. So if you had a single S9 miner at your house versus 100,000 S21 miners down the road, that is going to have a much higher odds of solving the block equation because there's more energy going into it. And if you had me over here versus Tiger Woods is going to hit a lot more hole-in-ones than me because he has more skill. He's put more energy into what he does. It's the exact same thing. So it's not just chance. The more energy that you have there, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, it is just chance, but the more energy you put into it, the more guesses you make and the higher your chances are. So I understand what you're saying there, but it's the same. It's just energy. Skill and energy are the same thing because in order to get skill, you have to put energy into it. Yes. Energy equals skill. It is. Think about any skill. And that's kind of what we're leading into this next part here is skill is just energy. And I was watching, sorry, I've been really abandoning the Zap.stream here. I was just kind of on a rant there. Not a rant, but Ballsy Golf says, good golf analogy. I get it now. Just don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. It's just the more energy you put into it, the higher your odds are that you're going to solve that block equation. That's it. And you have to also keep in mind here with that analogy that there is a chance that the S9 could win a block. It's just the odds of that happening are very, very much lower than an efficient Bitcoin mining rig. Okay, so this ties into the next part here, and I think we're actually doing pretty good for time. But as we got here, energy equals skill. And so over the weekend, I've been watching Physical 100. And I don't know if you guys have watched this or not yet on Netflix. It's actually pretty good. But it's basically 100 very, what would you call them? Very strong, very athletic people from, I think it's Korea. And they play these different competitions and they get down to one person. They start with 100 of them, Physical 100, and they get down. So they do all these different competitions. And I was watching on the weekend, and a couple of things I noted. The first one was that there was a guy doing pull-ups. That was one of the competitions, is how many pull-ups you could do in 1 minute. And the guy did like 55 pull-ups in 1 minute. And everybody in the crowd, everybody, all the competition, all the competitors there were just in awe of this guy, that he did 55 pull-ups in 1 minute. And they see that. People on TV, they see this guy doing 55 pull-ups in 1 minute. And you think, wow, that guy's an absolute specimen. I can't believe he can do that. But that's all that you see. You didn't see the work. You didn't see the hours and days and weeks and months and years that he's put in to doing that and building his body in a way that he could do that. You don't see any of that. And so people always assume that it just happens naturally with people. And that's not the case. It's not the case. Similar to Bitcoin mining, proof of work is required in any aspect of life. And actually, the other part of the physical 100 that I saw that I think that people should be paying attention to is the fact that I think there was about 30 women on there, 30 or 40 women and 60 males. Might have been 50-50. Anyways, I'm down to like the top 20 here. And I think there's one woman left. And all these challenges that they've been doing are mostly very physical. And I was watching it with Bridge last night, my girlfriend, and she's like, why are they doing these competitions? Why are they all so strength focused? It just goes to show how different the male body is compared to the female body. She said that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so against all this stuff that's happening with the women's sports in terms of guys dressing up as women and competing in women's sports. It's just not fair. And it should be a crime that they're allowing these men to compete against these women just because they identify as that. And that goes back to the Dave Smith stuff that he was talking about in terms of how dumb everything is right now. But it's just like people are starting to realize this, how little things actually make sense. And it's not about this or that. It's reality. The fact that a male's body is built much differently than a women's body. And if you put them up against strength competitions, whether it's rugby, hockey, anything, if you're competing as a male body versus a female, it's very dangerous. And so she acknowledged that last night. I mean, she's kind of much less on the spectrum here than I am, but she realized that. And I think that we need more of that kind of reality in the world. Anyways, that was just an aside. So kind of the point of today and what I wanted to get at here is not only explain like the proof of work protocol and how it all works and why Bitcoin is going to be the one that wins here, but I really want you to start thinking about things in your life. Look at things as a Bitcoin cycle. Forget years. Forget years. Start thinking about everything in terms of 4-year cycles, because you can't do anything in a year. And I think that we've been kind of not brainwashed, but we've been told to think in terms of years. And I challenge you to think about this today. Think about one good thing in the world that was built in 1 year. And you might say a house. Your house might have been built in 1 year. But houses should take a very long time to build. And buildings should take a very long time to build. The reason why they take so quick to be built now is because all the materials and everything is just garbage. And that's the society that we've kind of been thrown into here and been born into in a lot of ways. And we were talking about building a deck yesterday and how different it is, and cabinets, and how shitty our wood has gotten through the years. And this is just kind of a microcosm of the fiat world. But if you look at wood from like 50, 60, 70 years ago and how well it holds up compared to the wood that we have now, the only reason our wood and the materials that we use to build things don't last as long is because it's garbage. They need to keep prices down, so they need to use cheaper materials to produce those materials, cheaper ingredients to produce those materials. And that's kind of where we are today. So I think that going forward, this is something that we really need to be, yeah, exactly. Aaron Haywood, the houses now in the US and probably anywhere on earth are built in less than 6 months, made with glue and silly putty. And I really want people to start applying this whole long-term proof of work focus to your life. And I think that you're going to get you're going to have much better results in your life, whatever you're trying to achieve. But start thinking about things in 4 years instead of just 1 year. I really challenge you to do that today. Think about one thing good in life that was built in 1 year. And a couple comparisons I like to make here is that if you think about the dynasties of the world, and there's countries out there like the Chinese, they think in like 50 years, 100 years, 150 years. They do everything. They move very slowly, but that's their long-term view there. And that's how they've advanced so much compared to us, because they think in 50 years, 100 years, 150 years, the dynasties. Whereas here, our politicians switch every 4 years. They do as much damage as they can. They make as many promises as they can. They hardly follow through with any of them. And then some other dipshit comes into the Oval Office and tries to change things again in 4 years for a whole country, for everybody in that population. So with Bitcoin, whatever you're trying to accomplish right now in life, that could be losing 20 pounds. That could be getting to 1 Bitcoin. That could be becoming a scratch golfer. It could be any of that. Don't focus on year to year. Focus on 4 or 5 years at a time and just see what happens. I know it's hard because we only have so many 5-year increments in our life, but I think that just goes to show how important it is to have a goal and a direction to be going in there, because you don't want to waste 5 years, right? You want to have a goal that you're going towards and take all of your time and energy working towards that. And after 4 or 5 years, you're going to be absolutely blown away by how much you actually accomplish there. And the other one here is the Canada Golf. There was the Canadian Open over the weekend here. There was last year, it was won by Nick Taylor, the first time in 60 years a Canadian won the Canadian Open. So Nick Taylor won. And then this year we had 2 or 3 Canadians actually in the top 10. And why this is relevant is because there's a guy named Derek Ingram here in Canada, one of the famous golf teachers here. We actually had him on the podcast. I think it was last year, but I specifically remember this. He was talking about a 12-year plan that they had. As Golf Canada, the Canadian golfers, they had a 12-year plan where they're slowly 1% every single day. That's kind of their mentality, 1% a day. And they're not trying to do everything in one summer or one season. They're not basing their results off of one golf season, 12 years. And if you look at Golf Canada and the Canadian golfers in the PGA right now, today versus 12 or 15 years ago, it's night and day. So just apply this to every single aspect of your life. Know that you have to put in the work and you have to think in longer time frames, and just make sure that you know where you're going to. I really want to drill this into everybody's head here in terms of this, the people who watch this show, is stop thinking in years. Start thinking in Bitcoin cycles, because it's going to change everything about you. Your focus, where you put your energy, your goals, how you set your goals, how bigger your goals can actually be over 5 years. The shitty thing about our society now is that everybody just wants a quick overnight thing, overnight success, win the lottery, whatever it is. And if you don't, so you set a goal every January 1st, and then January 1st rolls around quickly the next year, and you didn't hit any of your goals, and you get very frustrated. And then you take a couple of years off setting goals because you didn't come close to setting your goal that you had for 1 year there. But if you look at it over 5 years and you just get 1% better every single day, I think that's how we should be looking at it now. And this is Moon says, appreciate your content. Let's go Bitcoin. I don't know if Scotty Scheffler can hit a hole in one from behind bars. Ben's in both chats here. There you go. But that's today's show. And I know we had some issues in terms of the internet dropping for a couple minutes, but that's what I wanted to talk about today. And that's why compounding is magic. Absolutely. Every single day, you should just be trying to get 1% better. That's it. That's all you can do. Think in 5-year terms, make sure you have your goal in mind and set it towards that. And you're going to be amazed what happens over the 5-year term. So I really just want to read what Craig said over in the Zap.stream chat here, because I think it's worth mentioning here. And I also saw a comment from Kev here. Where is it? How often do you guys earn anything on Fountain? For me, about 3 days out of 4, I earn 0 sats and get the message to check back tomorrow. Yeah, I went through that for a little while too. It seems like I'm better now, and I helped people get onto Fountain. A couple different people get onto Fountain, and they actually didn't earn any rewards for like a month or 2 straight. So I have no idea how it works. I have no idea if it has anything to do with the version you're using or how they decide how many sats you get per day. But I would just say keep trying. And if you think something's wrong, just shoot an email to Oscar from Fountain. They're usually pretty quick to respond. Ninja says, Jor, I just bought my cold wallet today. Awesome. What did you get? What wallet did you get? So this is just a kind of a follow-up to the proof of work stuff. I want to read this from Craig. He said, proof of work, a chain of solved blocks stored on a public ledger. So let's stop there. I think that's an important start. A chain of solved blocks stored on a public ledger. Each computer stores the same copy of the public ledger, verifying each transaction is accurate. So if you're running a Bitcoin node, that's what you see. It's just a giant ledger of transactions. And each computer stores the same copy of it. And that's why the Bitcoin blockchain itself works so well, is because there's one person or one company who gets to design the block template, who gets to decide what transaction goes in there. One person. And then they broadcast it out to the entire network. And if you think about what it would look like if there was a bunch of different people who got to in the block template, let's say there was like 50 people in charge of this, and they were going back and forth and trying to decide which transactions were on there, and there are different versions getting sent out to the public ledger, it would be a shit show. So with this, there's one miner who gets to decide what that block template looks like, what transactions are included in there, and they broadcast that out to the entire Bitcoin network. If you're running a Bitcoin node, you get the updated version of that. Because mining the blocks requires about $40,000 worth of electricity, it is cost prohibitive to attack the Bitcoin network. This mechanism secures the network, and the protocol prevents double spending. So Bitcoin has two components, the coin itself and the public network. Yes, that's a great point. For people who are new to Bitcoin, there's actually two different parts of Bitcoin. There's the currency, Bitcoin, and there's the Bitcoin network, Bitcoin. And people kind of lump them together. And they kind of work together in tandem, and I don't think one could work without the other. So I understand why people do that, but it's important to really understand the fact that there's Bitcoin, the currency, and Bitcoin, the network. The public network represents public infrastructure allowing peer-to-peer transactions without any third party like a bank. Bitcoin allows us to be our own bank. It is a privatization of money as it used to be. Bingo. Bingo, bingo, bingo. And Aaron says Fountain is basically random. Oh, got the Tangent wallet. Let me know how that works. I've heard some good things about it. I've never used it myself, but I prefer the cold card myself. Elliot, I just bought one Bitcoin and I will not sell anything before 2033 to benefit from 2024, 2028, and 2032 halvings. Perfect. The only thing I would say on that, Elliot, is keep 90% of it forever. Forever. Give it to your kids, they'll give it to their kids, and they'll give it to their kids. People are underestimating that part of Bitcoin, the generational aspect of it. But props to you. I think that a lot of people, including myself, have been scrapping and scraping a lot of years to try to get to one Bitcoin. And I very much envy the fact that somebody can just walk up with $70,000 and buy a Bitcoin. But at the same time, and this is how we're going to end the show today. At the same time, if you think about the people like Elliot here who have the ability to just go buy one Bitcoin, a lot of that wealth, and there's a lot of people out there who probably could do that, but they've actually put in the work. They have enough money. All the money that people have is earned from something. Some people get lucky. Some people win the lottery, a big inheritance, but I think that's a very small group of people. The majority of people who have that amount of money, who could just convert $70,000 worth of fiat into one Bitcoin, they've already put in the work. They've worked their whole lives. They've spent a ton of time every single day showing up to work. They've earned that money, the ability to do that. Somebody who's 50, 60, 70, or 40, who knows? But somebody like me, I haven't put in the work yet. And that's why I feel like I'm scratching and scraping to try to get to one Bitcoin, because I haven't put in the same amount that they have. I haven't contributed the same amount of value to the world that they have, whatever that looks like. Somebody out there felt that they were valuable enough to pay them the equivalent of one Bitcoin already. So they put in the work. And keep that in mind. If you're somebody who's younger or getting frustrated with the fact that how long it takes to get to 1 Bitcoin, you just got to put in more work. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. Ben says, why do you recommend the cold card? Mostly because a lot of reasons. There's a lot of Bitcoiners that I really trust that use that. That's number one. In Bitcoin, you kind of have to navigate the internet, the webs, to try to find people you trust and kind of lean on their advice until they prove you wrong. But that's kind of how I got into it. They're a Canadian company. I really like NVK as a guy and his philosophy around Bitcoin. The other part too is that you actually don't have to connect it to your laptop. So it uses air gap. You never connect it to your USB port. And I just think there's something about connecting the greatest asset in the history of the world, all of your life's energy, connecting that into a laptop where you have no idea who can access that, anything on there. I have no idea. So I'm not going to risk it. So I like the air gapped aspect of the cold card where you actually just pop in a USB, you save it on there. You can see everything on the USB, and then you sign the transaction on your cold card. Oh, look at this. We got a super chat. I think that's the second ever super chat on the show. Trideca 13, $13. I've been enjoying your content lately. Enjoy some sats. Thank you. There you go. We'll end with that. There you go. I love that. So big shout out to Trideca. Big shout out to everybody over in Zap.stream, not only for just showing up, but also to, let me see if I can see who's Zap today. We had Daniel and Craig. I don't know why it's showing a different amount on here, and Craig Zap 2100 sats. So that's it for today. Oh, maybe Letha did too as well. Let me double check, because Letha's been having some issues there too. Oh, we got a couple on there, some 21 sats and 420 sats and a 2100 sat. So shout out to Trideca for the second ever super chat on the show. Very much appreciated. Shout out to everybody on Zap.stream for zapping some sats to Arnie today. Hopefully he'll start feeling better. Hopefully. Keep your fingers crossed for Arnie and your toes. So that's it. If you are... no, we'll just leave it there today. We've talked about enough today. I appreciate everybody for being here, for showing up in the chat, for the questions, for the comments, and for the zaps and super chats today. So have yourself an amazing Monday and put in the work. Start thinking about it. Start thinking about what you want to do, what your goals are, and change your time frame on it. Change it from 1 year at a time to 4 or 5 years at a time. And you'll be amazed what kind of results you get. So have a great Monday, everybody. We'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.